Hey everyone, welcome back to Speak English Podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Sarah. We're here to help you improve your English skills in a fun and practical way.
Today's episode is all about one powerful phrase. Boost up your English skills. If you've been looking for ways to improve your fluency, vocabulary, and confidence, you're in the right place.
That's right. We're going to break down effective techniques to help you take your English to the next level. And trust me, you won't want to miss this.
Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode.
Now, let's get started. How exactly can you boost up your English skills? First, let's talk about an incredible technique that will change the way you learn.
So, what exactly does it mean to boost up your English skills? Well, it's all about using smart strategies that make learning more effective and enjoyable. Many people think that just memorizing words or studying grammar rules will make them fluent. But that's not really the case. True fluency comes from real practice and consistency.
That's right. One of the most effective techniques to improve your English is called contextual learning. Instead of just memorizing words in isolation, you learn them in real-life situations. This means paying attention to how words are used in conversations, stories, or even TV shows. When you see or hear words in context, your brain naturally remembers them better.
Exactly. Think about it this way. Have you ever learned a new word just because you heard it multiple times in a TV show or a song? That's contextual learning in action. Your brain connects the word with emotions, actions, and situations, making it easier to recall later. This is why studying English through real-world examples is much more effective than just using a dictionary.
And another great technique is active engagement. This means you're not just passively listening or reading in English, but actually interacting with the language. For example, when you watch a movie, try repeating phrases out loud. When you read an article, summarize it in your own words. The more you use English in a meaningful way, the faster you'll improve.
That's a great point. A lot of learners get stuck in a passive learning cycle. They watch videos, listen to podcasts, or read books, but they don't take the next step, which is actually using what they've learned. Active engagement forces your brain to process the language deeply, which leads to better retention and stronger speaking skills.
And one more thing, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Many learners hesitate to speak because they're afraid of saying something wrong. But here's the secret. Mistakes are a natural part of learning. In fact, the more mistakes you make, the more opportunities you have to correct them and improve. That's how real progress happens.
That's so true. Think about how kids learn a language. They don't worry about grammar or pronunciation at first. They just speak, make mistakes, and gradually get better. If you apply the same mindset to your English learning, you'll gain confidence much faster. So, instead of fearing mistakes, embrace them as part of the journey.
Another powerful technique to boost your skills is spaced repetition. This is a scientifically proven method where you review new words or concepts at specific intervals instead of cramming everything in one day. For example, if you learn a new word today, review it tomorrow, then again in a few days, then a week later. This way, your brain strengthens its memory connections, making the words stick for the long term.
Yes. And to make it even more effective, try using flashcards with sentences, not just single words. Instead of writing adventurous on one side and its meaning on the other, write a full sentence like, "She is very adventurous and loves to travel." This helps you understand the word in a real sentence structure, making it easier to remember and use naturally.
That's a great tip. And speaking of learning naturally, another fantastic method is shadowing. This is where you listen to a native speaker, like in a podcast or movie, and repeat what they say at the same time, copying their pronunciation and rhythm. It's one of the fastest ways to sound more fluent because you're training your mouth and ears at the same time.
Absolutely. Shadowing is like training your brain to think in English. At first, it might feel difficult, but over time, your pronunciation, intonation, and even speed will improve dramatically. And the best part? You can practice shadowing anywhere, while walking, cooking, or even driving. Just find an audio clip, put on your headphones, and repeat what you hear.
And if you want to take it even further, try self-talk. This means thinking or speaking in English throughout the day, even when you're alone. Describe what you're doing, talk about your plans, or even argue with yourself in English. It may sound funny, but this technique helps you become more comfortable forming sentences quickly and naturally.
That's a great strategy. A lot of learners struggle with speaking because they don't get enough practice. But if you start talking to yourself in English, you're training your brain to think in the language without relying on translation. The more you practice, the faster your English will improve.
Now that we've covered some powerful techniques, it's time to see them in action.
Now, let's put some of these techniques into action. Imagine you just learned a new word. Remarkable. Instead of just memorizing the definition, let's see how we can truly absorb it using different methods. First, let's start with contextual learning. Here's a sentence. The scientist made a remarkable discovery that changed the world.
That's a great example. Now let's take it a step further with active engagement. If you were to use this word in your own life, how would you apply it? Let's say you're talking about your favorite book. You could say, "This novel has a remarkable storyline that kept me hooked from start to finish." By doing this, you personalize the word, which makes it easier to remember.
Exactly. And to reinforce it even more, let's try spaced repetition. Today, we've learned the word remarkable, so let's write it down in a notebook or add it to a flashcard app. Tomorrow, we'll come back and use it in another sentence. Then, in a few days, we'll review it again. This way, instead of forgetting it after a few hours, it will stick in our memory.
And let's not forget shadowing. Listen to this sentence carefully. The view from the top of the mountain was truly remarkable. Now repeat after me, mimicking my pronunciation and rhythm. The view from the top of the mountain was truly remarkable. Try saying it again, matching the speed and intonation. This helps train your brain to recognize and produce natural speech patterns.
That's a fantastic way to practice. And another fun method is self-talk. Throughout your day, challenge yourself to use the word remarkable in different situations. For example, if you see a beautiful sunset, say to yourself, "Wow, this sunset is remarkable." By doing this, you're reinforcing the word in a way that feels natural and connected to your daily life.
Now, let's try applying active engagement with a conversation exercise. Imagine you're talking to a friend and they ask about a trip you recently took. You could respond, "Oh, it was amazing. The food was delicious, the scenery was breathtaking, and the culture was remarkable." See how that flows naturally? You're not just using the word, you're making it part of a real dialogue.
That's a great point. And speaking of conversation practice, let's try a quick role play. I'll ask you a question, and you answer using remarkable. Ready? Here's the question. What's the most remarkable experience you've ever had? Now, take a moment to think and form a response in your mind. Even if you're just practicing alone, speaking out loud will help reinforce your learning.
Yes, and if you're unsure how to respond, a great trick is to repeat part of the question before answering. For example, "The most remarkable experience I've ever had was when I traveled to Japan and saw Mount Fuji in person." This helps you sound more fluent while also reinforcing the key word in context.
Another thing you can do is record yourself speaking. Grab your phone, hit record, and talk about a remarkable experience for 1 minute. Then, listen to it and see if there are any words you'd like to improve. This is a powerful way to track your progress and build confidence in your speaking skills.
That's a fantastic exercise. And if you want to make it even more interactive, try finding a language partner or joining an online conversation group. The more you use English in real conversations, the more comfortable you'll become. Even small daily conversations can make a huge difference over time.
And don't forget, learning is a journey, not a race. The more you expose yourself to English in different ways, the more natural it will feel. Whether it's reading, speaking, listening, or writing, each method reinforces the other. That's why using a mix of these techniques is the key to real progress.
Absolutely. The goal is to make English a part of your everyday life, not just something you study in a textbook. The more natural and enjoyable your practice is, the faster you'll improve. And remember, every small effort adds up. So keep going and keep practicing.
Now that we've seen these techniques in action, let's talk about why they're so effective. Up next, we'll explore the real benefits of practicing English in this way. Now that we've practiced different techniques, let's talk about why they actually work. One of the biggest benefits of this approach is that it makes learning more natural. Instead of just memorizing words, you're engaging with them in a way that feels like real-life communication. This helps your brain retain information much faster.
Exactly. And another major advantage is boosting confidence. When you practice speaking out loud, using words in conversations, and engaging in active recall, you start to feel more comfortable expressing yourself in English. Over time, this reduces hesitation and makes you sound more fluent.
And let's not forget improved listening skills. Techniques like shadowing train your ear to recognize natural pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm. The more you expose yourself to real spoken English, the easier it becomes to understand native speakers in different situations.
That's so true. Another great benefit is better pronunciation and articulation. When you repeat sentences and mimic native speakers, your mouth gets used to forming English sounds correctly. This not only makes you more understandable but also helps you feel more at ease when speaking.
And one of my favorite advantages? Long-term retention. When you actively use words and phrases instead of just reading them once, they stay in your memory for much longer. This means you won't have to keep relearning the same things over and over again.
Yes. Plus, practicing in different ways, like writing, speaking, and listening, creates stronger connections in your brain. Instead of relying on rote memorization, you're reinforcing English through multiple senses, making it easier to recall when you need it.
And this approach isn't just effective, it's also more fun. When you incorporate interactive methods like self-talk, role-playing, and conversation exercises, learning doesn't feel like a chore. Instead, it becomes an enjoyable and engaging part of your daily life.
That's a great point. The more enjoyable your practice is, the more consistent you'll be. And consistency is the key to fluency. Small daily efforts add up, and before you know it, you'll be speaking English with ease and confidence.
Now that we know the benefits, let's break it down into a simple step-by-step plan. The first step is to choose a short piece of content. It could be a podcast clip, a short video, or even a paragraph from a book. Make sure it's something you find interesting and at a level that challenges you, but isn't too difficult.
Great. Step 2 is to listen carefully. Play the content once or twice without reading anything. Just focus on understanding the overall meaning and the way the words are pronounced. If you miss a few words, don't worry. The goal here is to train your ear.
Then comes step 3. Read and listen at the same time. If your chosen content has subtitles or a transcript, follow along while listening. This helps you connect the sounds with their written forms and notice any words or phrases that stand out.
Step 4 is shadowing. This means listening to the speaker and immediately repeating what they say, mimicking their pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation as closely as possible. It might feel tricky at first, but don't stop. Keep going and focus on getting better with practice.
Yes. And after that, step 5 is recording yourself. This is a game changer. Play a short section, repeat it out loud, and record your voice. Then, listen to both the original and your version to compare them. You'll start noticing small areas where you can improve.
Step 6. Speak without reading. Try to retell the key points in your own words. This forces your brain to recall vocabulary and structures naturally, helping you build confidence in using English spontaneously.
Step 7 is all about writing it down. After listening and speaking, take a moment to write a summary or a few sentences using the new words and expressions you've learned. Writing reinforces what you've practiced and helps with long-term retention.
And finally, Step 8. Review and repeat. Learning English isn't about doing something once and moving on. It's about repetition. Go back to the same content after a few days and notice how much better you understand and speak. That's real progress.
These steps are simple, but when done consistently, they make a huge difference. Now, let's talk about something equally important: common mistakes people make when trying to improve their English and how to avoid them. Now that we have a clear step-by-step plan, let's talk about some common mistakes that can slow down your progress. One of the biggest mistakes is focusing too much on grammar. While grammar is important, many learners hesitate to speak because they're afraid of making mistakes. Communication is the goal, so don't let perfection stop you from practicing.
Absolutely. Another common mistake is learning words in isolation. Memorizing vocabulary lists without context makes it harder to use the words naturally. Instead, always learn new words inside phrases or sentences. This helps you understand their meaning and how they fit into real conversations.
Another issue is not practicing pronunciation early on. Some learners focus only on vocabulary and grammar, but ignore pronunciation. The problem? If you don't work on this from the start, bad habits can form, making it harder to correct later. Shadowing and recording yourself, like we discussed earlier, are great ways to fix this.
Yes. And here's a big one: translating everything into your native language. When you constantly think in your native language before speaking, it slows you down and makes conversations feel unnatural. Instead, try to connect new words directly with images or situations, not with translations.
Another mistake? Not listening enough. Many learners focus on speaking but forget that listening is just as important. When you listen to native speakers regularly, you start absorbing natural sentence structures, pronunciation patterns, and even common expressions. So, make listening a daily habit.
That's so true. Another thing to avoid is sticking to the same learning routine without variety. If you only use textbooks or only watch movies, your skills won't develop evenly. Mix it up. Combine reading, listening, speaking, and writing to get the best results.
And let's not forget giving up too soon. Many people expect fast results and feel frustrated when they don't see instant progress. Learning a language is a long-term process. It's about small improvements over time. Stay consistent, and you'll get there.
One more mistake to watch out for is not speaking enough. Some learners focus on input, reading, and listening, but avoid speaking because they feel shy or insecure. The best way to improve speaking is to speak. Even if you make mistakes, the more you practice, the more confident you'll become.
So, if you recognize any of these mistakes in your own learning journey, don't worry. It's never too late to adjust your approach. Now, to make sure you actually apply what we've talked about, we have a challenge for you. Now that we've covered common mistakes, let's put everything into practice with a fun challenge. The best way to improve is to actively use what you learn. So here's what we suggest. Commit to a 7-day speaking challenge. Every day, for 1 week, you'll record yourself speaking for at least 1 minute.
That's right. You don't need anything fancy, just your phone's voice recorder. Pick a different topic each day. It could be a short story about your day, describing an object in your house, or even summarizing a movie you watched. The goal is to speak without overthinking.
And here's the key part. Listen to your recordings after a few days. Compare your first recording with your last. Notice how your fluency and confidence improve just by speaking daily. It's an amazing way to track progress.
If you want to take it a step further, try shadowing a native speaker. Choose a short clip, maybe from a podcast, movie, or YouTube video. Listen to a sentence, pause, and repeat it out loud, copying the pronunciation and rhythm as closely as possible.
Yes, shadowing is one of the most powerful techniques for improving pronunciation and natural speech flow. Even if you don't understand every word, your brain starts recognizing patterns, and you get used to the melody of English.
Another great exercise is thinking in English throughout the day. Instead of translating words in your head, try narrating your thoughts in English. For example, when making breakfast, say to yourself, "I'm making coffee. The water is boiling. Now I'll add some sugar." This trains your brain to process English faster.
That's a fantastic habit. And if you have a language partner, you can challenge each other. Set a daily conversation goal, like speaking for 10 minutes without using your native language. The more you push yourself out of your comfort zone, the faster you'll improve.
Exactly. And don't worry about making mistakes. Remember, the goal is progress, not perfection. If you're consistent with these small daily challenges, you'll see a huge improvement in your speaking skills in just a few weeks.
So, here's our challenge for you. Choose one of these exercises and start today. Whether it's recording yourself, shadowing, or thinking in English, just take action. The only way to get better is to practice.
We'd love to hear about your experience. If you try this challenge, let us know in the comments how it's going. Now, before we wrap up, let's go over the key takeaways from today's episode.
Wow! We've covered so much today. We talked about powerful techniques to boost your English skills, from understanding how learning works, practicing shadowing, avoiding common mistakes, and even taking on a 7-day speaking challenge. The key takeaway? Consistent practice is everything.
Exactly! The more you expose yourself to English, whether by speaking, thinking in English, or mimicking native speakers, the faster you'll improve. The important thing is to take action and not just passively listen. What was your favorite tip from today's episode? Let us know in the comments.
And we'd love to hear your experiences. Have you ever struggled with any of the challenges we mentioned? Maybe you've already tried some of these techniques before? Share your story in the comments. Your experience might inspire someone else on their journey.
Speaking of comments, if you've made it this far, it means you're truly committed to improving your fluency. So let's do something fun. Comment the word skills below so we know you watched until the end. We love seeing who sticks with us.
That's a great idea. And don't forget, learning English is a journey. Some days will be easier than others, but as long as you stay consistent and keep pushing yourself, you will improve. The most important thing is to enjoy the process.
Absolutely. If you found today's episode helpful, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button so more people can discover these tips. Your support really helps us create more valuable content for English learners like you.
And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. We're here every week with new strategies to help you speak English with confidence.
That's right. And if you want even more practice, check out our previous episodes. We have tons of valuable lessons covering pronunciation, vocabulary, and real-life conversations.
So, keep practicing, stay motivated, and remember, every little step you take brings you closer to fluency. You've got this.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you in the next episode. Until then, keep learning and keep speaking. Bye for now.